How many of you are stuck working on your informational speech over spring break instead of enjoying your week off because you procrastinated? Don't worry, you're not alone. Riley Alyssa Joanne O'Ram, a studying doctor of philosophy and experimental psychology, states that students have the highest prevalence rates of procrastination ranging from 70 to 95%. I too believe I am credible to talk about this topic because I tend to procrastinate on a lot of my assignments as well. So today I'm here to talk to you about 3 reasons why you might be procrastinating and how to stop. So for the first one, we will talk about how perfectionism can lead to procrastination. Then we will talk about how we form that habit of procrastination. And lastly, we will talk about the psychological reasons behind that lack of motivation that leads to procrastination. So to begin, let's talk about how perfectionism can lead to procrastination. Procrastination does not always stem from laziness, but can be because of a fear of creating subpar work and a need to create perfection. A lot of times people procrastinate because they want to avoid making mistakes and are afraid of failure. I know that I procrastinate because I tend to not know where to start, or I believe that I'm wasting time because I don't have an immediate direction. Self-proclaimed professional procrastinator Selma Abdel-Mohsen described in her TED Talk, which she gave on April 7th of 2021, titled Navigating Life as a Procrastinating Perfectionist, discusses the 3P cycle, which includes perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. She goes on to talk about how she believes that she has a fear of not finding that bigger, better idea, and how that fuels her procrastination and stops her from being able to finish her work in a timely manner. So a couple ways to combat this procrastination would be to remember that there's only a finite level of perfect that you can achieve. And I know this is telling a perfectionist that they can't be perfect, but at some point, you are only torturing your subject and harming the grade. Another way we can combat this is to give yourself a fake deadline or have other people lie to you about when your deadline is so that you create things ahead of time. Another way, I know that this wouldn't really be for everyone because if you're like me, I tend to check off a lot about when something is due and obsess over it so that I know exactly how much time that I have to procrastinate. Another idea would be to create smaller deadlines. So for my English professor for one of my summer terms created his essays over a period of a week. We would have to create the idea that we have on the first day. Then 2 days later, we would have to turn in the rough draft. And then a couple days after that, we would have to record ourselves speaking our final draft. And then a couple days after that, we would have to turn in our final draft. And that did tend to work for me as well. For the second reason, we will talk about the formed habit of procrastination. So my best friend of approximately 13 years also procrastinates and has admitted this, but for a very different reason. She believes that she does her best work at the last minute. And this is very common for people who believe that they do their best work on a very strict deadline. What they don't understand is that they are creating and reinforcing a bad habit. Psychiatrist Aditya Shukla, in her article titled Stop Procrastinating, with this research-based psychology method that she wrote on February 26th of 2020, she writes that procrastination is not a time management problem. It is not laziness. Humans procrastinate because of poor emotional regulation about outcome of tasks. So what she means by this, and she goes on to talk about how the prefrontal cortex of the brain recognizes and predicts a discomfort when having to do tasks that we are not fully confident about, and that causes us to lose focus and to instead do something that we would enjoy, which enforces and rewards that bad behavior as well. So in order to kick this bad habit, there are 4 steps in order to do this. We want to identify our cues, to change our routine, reward ourselves, and modify our beliefs. So to begin, we want to identify that cue by paying attention to our surroundings when starting a task, seeing what time of day maybe that we start it, and what our feelings are when we're starting the task at hand. This way we can pay attention to what excuse we're giving ourselves for not being able to do the work that we have to do. Once we have identified our cue, we want to change our routine in order to avoid that trigger and create a plan that gives us rewards. And as we're working on those rewards, as we're working on the plan, we want to make sure that we're rewarding ourselves for reaching those rewards. So maybe if we are studying for 30 minutes, we're going to be giving ourselves a snack or maybe our favorite drink. Or if we are completing an entire section, maybe we earn an hour of TV time or an hour of game time. And lastly, we want to change our belief system. So that would mean being able to stay positive during this journey and breaking our habit, because it is going to take an immeasurable amount of time and willpower in order to succeed. Lastly, we're going to be talking about how our basic psychological needs, and how these lead to a lack of motivation. So according to the self-determination theory, our 3 basic needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness, which all promote curiosity and interest in learning. So autonomy, supportiveness in classrooms looks like the student being able to make their own decisions with the support from their superiors. Competence would be having a sufficient understanding of the coursework, and relatedness would be the ability to connect with our peers and hold meaningful discussions with them. So Riley Alyssa Joanna Ram, the studying doctor of philosophy and experimental psychology, writes in her thesis on February 19, 2021, titled "Stop Procrastinating on Procrastination." She finds that basic psychological needs, satisfaction and frustration, are both direct and indirect predictors of procrastination. If these needs are not being met in your learning environment, you are most likely basic psychological needs frustrated, which has been known to be harmful to your motivation and is quickly followed by procrastination. And the best thing that you can do in this situation is to pinpoint what that need is that you are lacking, and talk with your professor or with your peers about how you can fulfill that need. People tend to naturally want to learn and grow in the right environment, but a professor may not know what the problem is and where the problem lies unless someone does speak up about it. So now that we have talked about the different reasons you might be procrastinating, let's review. First, we discussed the 3 tactics to help you stop procrastinating. First, we mentioned how to trick your perfectionism to avoid procrastination, followed by how to break your habit of procrastination, and lastly, the importance of fulfilling your basic psychological needs. Lastly, I'll leave you with a quote from Pablo Picasso: "Only put off until tomorrow what you are willing to die having left undone." Thank you.